All right, so welcome back to our deep dive video series part two. I'm Shelley Myers with Practice Better, and today we're talking about session notes and note templates. So let's look at what we're going to talk about in part two today. Scroll down here. So in part two, we're going to talk about working with notes. So before part one, we talked about creating your note templates. Now we're going to talk about how to work with the notes using a template. So we're going to go over how to create a session note for a client and the various ways that you can do that. We're going to talk about attaching documents, protocols, and tasks to your notes, where to locate procedure and diagnosis codes, how to save and sign off on your notes, how to share notes with your clients, how to duplicate notes, how to add quick notes from the client hub, and also how to access previous notes while creating new notes. So let's head over to our demo system. I am going to turn off my camera so I don't block anything here. So let's take a look at where we're going to, the different ways that you can create a note for a client. So first of all, if you're in your note templates here, you can easily, if you're already in here and you just created a template and you want to now create that for a client, you can just click here and say create from client, select your client. And then once you see their photo and their name up here, then anything on here, and you'll see how the information from those placeholders is now pulled into this note template. So it's a great starting point, and then I can come in and add that additional information that we talk about during our session. So that is one way to create a note for a client. That is from the note templates themselves. So we're going to head back to the home page. And now if we're in a client record, so we're already in their record, there's a couple different ways from in here. So one of those ways could be just to click on the red button and you see all of these different options. This middle option, add notes. So I could click on that. Since I'm on the team plan, you may see this pop up just for me to select which practitioner. So again, if I wanted to select one of these templates, now you always have the option to create a new note just from scratch, but if you did want to access any of the templates that you spent time customizing or building, then you can just select those here. Now, another way to do it is if you're looking at their upcoming appointments. Let's say it was already October 18th and you're just preparing for this initial consultation session with your client. You can just go right here and click add notes. And we're going to go ahead and select the initial consultation session notes since it is an initial consultation. So now this is just letting me know that it is attaching the diagnosis codes here because those are common codes that I use for initial consultations, but you can always modify those or you can add additional codes. So now you see this is actually linked to that booking. So it's linked to the booking that we have on October 18th at 11 a.m. So if for some reason you didn't want it linked to that booking, you can just click here to unlink the booking. So again, it looks very similar to when you are in the note templates themselves. You still can add, so even when you're in a note for the client, you can still add additional components here. They're always going to be added at the very bottom. So you can see pulled in her name. But this is where you are going to start up here. So just to let you know, over here are the procedures. If you are planning to give your client a super bill, if you need to capture the diagnosis and procedure codes, you can add those here. So you can either delete or you can add additional codes here that are going to be attached to that particular booking and that note for the client. Now, if you wanted to add any documents, can attach those here. So if you talked about maybe going gluten-free or eat the rainbow, you have resources to give them and you want it to be organized. So when they go to look at the notes that you shared, they're going to see those. Maybe it's recipes or a meal plan, something that you discussed during that session. You can attach those here to keep it organized with what you talked about in that session. Now, if you've already assigned a protocol or protocols for that client, and again, you want to attach them to this note because that's what you discussed during the session and you want to have it linked to keep it organized, you could also link a protocol here. And you can also add and link any labs that you have for that client. And then you can also come over here and add tasks. So we're not going to get into how to do a task. Hopefully you've already played around with tasks, but I did want to just quickly show you how you can add all of these to keep it organized with this particular initial consultation note. So now this is where if you want to share the notes in any attached document, so anything that you may have added up here, if you're going to share those with the client, then you want to make sure that you check this. So even though in my default settings, you see here that this little icon is checked. So even if that's checked and you don't click the box up here, then it's not going to be shared with the client. This is just a safeguard. That's just a double check for you to say, yes, I do indeed want to share the sections below where I have turned this on. I do want to share those with the client. And then I also want to share anything that I've added up here. So then you're going to go ahead and you're going to be taking your notes during this session. And once you're finished with that, if you want to add, even if you're not finished all the way, because you can come in here if you do not sign off on the notes. Up here, you'll notice that you can save notes. You can save and exit. If you're just finished for now, but maybe you are going to come back later when you have more time and update the notes. Now, depending on your scope of practice or your designation, some practitioners ultimately need to sign off on their notes. So that's really something that you would want to check into based on your credentials, your designation. Once you click this one, sign and save, then the notes are locked. So you will not be able to come back in and update those. But just keep in mind that not everyone does need to sign and save your notes. A lot of practitioners can just, save the notes and you can come back in and add to those or update those at any time. So let's go ahead and save and exit here. So now it's asking me, do I want to send a confirmation to my client that they have new notes? And then obviously it's going to share those sections and any resources that I've attached. So I am going to save and share. My client will get an alert that they have new notes and any resources that are attached to those. All right. So now I want to take you back just to navigate where we are. So if you're at your home screen, and then you come into your client's record, we came down here to notes. So when you're in notes, you can organize these either with newest first or oldest first. So if we have our newest notes first, you can also search by, if you are on the team plan, you could search by different practitioners. If you would have access to other practitioners' notes. And then right here, this could be anything that's still in progress. Any notes that have been marked as completed or notes that have been signed. So let's take a look at, and then here we just have if something's in draft or if it had been shared with the client already. So let's just take a look at in progress. So you can see here, if we go back here to completed, there's a little icon. So that just means it's completed. Now these notes, these were actually signed off on. So I would not be able to come in here and update these. But if we go back in here to in progress, so these are the ones that I just set up. So if at any time you wanted to duplicate these, so let's say you are going to have another session with the client and it's going to be a very similar session and you want to you don't want to keep adding to the notes that you just took. You want to duplicate those notes and then add to it so that you'll have the old notes and then you'll have the new copy, and it's going to have the date on here that you duplicated it. But then you can just keep adding to it and you'll still have the previous information. So it's going to help keep that information organized, and you can just keep building upon it. So it's that easy to just duplicate the note. Another thing that if you haven't discovered the Client Hub, this is one of my favorite features. If you see this icon, you'll notice that in different places in the platform. So if I click on that, it's going to pull up the Client Hub. Now I have it set in my settings where I can actually open multiple hubs. So if you open these and you move them around, this is a way for you to reference other information in the client's chart without leaving your screen. So maybe you're taking notes or adding to your notes, but then you want to go back and reference previous notes, just to reference that for context, or maybe you want to reference any of the information in your chart, or maybe what protocol they've been on or lab. So I could be over here referencing my client's most recent protocol, and then over here I could be referencing a lab report that came in from Rupa Health or Avexia if you're using those. So that way you can just move these around and reference other information without leaving the screen. And then when you're ready to close these down, you can just click on the X and close it down. I did want to show you also how to add what's called a quick note. So if you're, say, in a telehealth session or you just want to add a quick note without using a note template, you can open the hub, and then right down here you can add a quick note. You would put in a title, and then you can start taking the notes here. But if at any time you want to enlarge this into an actual note, you can say full edit mode, and it's going to take you over to create a note. Now, using that, you're not going to be able to select a template, although it did select the initial consultation template. So here is where you can. So that is the Client Hub. And lastly, I just wanted to show you where you can access previous notes. All right, so that is how you can use the Client Hub. So let's go back and let's just do a recap of what we talked about in part 2. So we went over how to create a session note for a client, how to attach your documents, protocols, and tasks, where to locate if you needed to modify or add additional procedure and diagnosis codes for that visit, how to save and sign off on your notes, how to share notes with your client, how to duplicate notes, and how to add quick notes from the Client Hub, or if you wanted to access previous notes while creating notes from the Client Hub. So thank you for watching, and we will be back shortly with part 3 of this video series.